Good morning, I'm Chris Murphy with Murphy Brothers here in Booneville, Mississippi. Standing here with an LS MT225E. Now this is not going to be a sales pitch video. This is what we're going to call a walk around video. This is the first in a series of videos we're going to do on each individual model or family of models that are so alike. We're going to do this for our customers to be able to reference back to, because when you first buy a tractor from us, we're going to do this walk around and we're going to show you a lot of the features and a lot of where to check, where to grease, that kind of thing. Just give you some basic rundown. But when people buy it that day, they're a little excited. They're not necessarily paying attention. So this might be a great way for them to reference back to it. Now, if you still hadn't bought a tractor and you're interested in this model, you're going to see some things here that's really going to make a lot of sense for you. So we're going to start with this walk around. Again, this is the LS MT225E. This tractor is the shuttle shift version. It is available in a hydrostat, but let's start with a walk around. Got a loader on these models. All LS tractors come with a free front end loader. All of these loaders are quick detach on the bucket. Quick detach back here off the tractor. So you don't have to have any tools to take your whole loader off. You don't have to have any tools to take your bucket off and put on a set of forks, a hay spear, a grapple, that kind of thing. Come around here and let's see these handles, how you do that. We're going to actually make another video showing how to take it off and it actually coming off and putting on another attachment. But what you're going to do, you've got these two handles, okay? You're going to pull these two handles up and that releases. Now watch right down in here, you'll see that wedge pin. When you put this back on, if that wedge pin is not going back into that hole, you don't have a positive lock on that attachment. So you always want to make sure and check that you're actually going into the hole and it's actually wedging in there, keeping you safe from, because if you raise it up and you're not locked in, you've just created a ramp coming down your lap. So be very careful with that. Another thing in this area here, you want to keep this area clean. Probably doesn't hurt to put smear a little grease, a little spray penetrant, that kind of thing. When you're walking past the barn and there's your tractor, it wouldn't hurt a thing just to go in and work both of these up and down just to make sure that they're free. Okay? Next on the loader, we've got a bucket level indicator. You can see this bucket is kicked up. If this bucket was flat, this hump would be down in here. So when the hump is in here, your bucket is sitting flat. Also have to be careful with that with different brand attachments. If the bucket's sitting flat on the ground like this, you've got this geometry here on the back of the bucket where your coupler is. So if you bought a set of forks and it's sitting more straight up, this is going to be a little off. So it just depends on what brand attachments that you buy, what the angle is on the back plate, but like I say, you may have to adjust some with your bucket level indicator. Now, greasing. We've already talked a little bit about greasing on the coupler. Keep it clean, keep it a little lubricated. But you'll see every joint on that loader's got a grease fitting. Well, Chris, how often should I grease it? Well, generally about every 8 hours of work, a work shift, something with a grease fitting should be greased. However, it's hard to keep up with every 8 on the hour meter. If you'll grease this thing about every 10 hours, I promise you'll be greasing it probably twice as much as most people. So grease does not hurt a thing. There again, that's the loader. Walk back here to the back. At the back of the tractor, a lot of people are not familiar with a lot of what we call things. This is a top link. Some people call it a third arm. This is your lift arm. You got your brackets here, and you've also got your stabilizers. Stabilizers is something we're going to talk about in depth. We probably need to shoot another video on just stabilizers. But this is a drawbar, SMV, slow moving vehicle symbol. This could save your life at night. People will see this, their headlights reflecting off this before they'll see the tail lights. If you're running at night on the road out where somebody could hit you, this could save your life. But it's right in the way when you want to put fuel in it. So take it off. You saw it just slid out. Fuel tank's right here. Another thing we always talk about when we get to here is you do have a screen in the fuel tank. This is designed when you put fuel in it to catch any kind of debris, foreign material, that kind of thing, to keep it from getting down into your tank, into your fuel lines, stopping up your fuel filter, or actually going beyond that and getting in your fuel system even deeper. So use this. We have found acorns, shop towels, fishing floats, gosh, handfuls of molding material out of red gas jugs. So make sure you're putting your fuel in a clean container. Also, you need to buy fuel where they sell a lot of it. We're very blessed right here in town. We've got a bulk plant where they sell a lot of fuel. But if I put it in a dirty bucket, or if I put it in a dirty tank, it's got dirty fuel. So that's where you're gonna add your fuel right here. While we're on the back, you can see right here, this is a dipstick, okay? LS does a really good job. Anything that you see painted white, that is generally a place to add, fill, or check some sort of fluid. This is where you check your hydraulic fluid. I'm not sure if you can see this or not. Sonny, can you see that? You see how clear that fluid is? You want to make sure that you're in this range. This is not really like a conventional dipstick where you want to get it right to the bump right here, and this is add and this is low, or this is low and this is full. As long as you're in the range, because if the tractor is tilted some, side to side, if it's up or down, if you've got the loader up or down, it's going to read differently. So you want to check this with the loader down and as flat as possible. If you have to add any fluid to this, you're going to add it right back in the same hole where the dipstick came from. Now the drawbar, while we're back here, this one's actually in backwards because you can push it in further. Got a hole on the end. If you're running with your tractor and your drawbar is all the way out here, when you let this 3-point hitch down, something's going to hit that. You always want to make sure that you're clearancing everything. So when you put a cutter, put a disc or whatever, you want to make sure this drawbar is slid in far enough or taken completely out if you're not using it, that your implement does not hit that. Okay? Right here's your PTO. That's a standard 540 spline PTO. Comes with a rubber boot. That just keeps it clean, keeps grease on it. Some people keep these, some people do not, but it does come with it. The big trick on that is if it gets rusty, nasty, pitted, scarred, that kind of thing, your PTO shaft from your implement is not going to slide on it quickly and easily. I have not thought about the best way to shoot this. All right, this is your stabilizer. You can see that telescope's in and out. When you've got your implement on there and you've got it tight, you got several different holes here. That stabilizer is not strong pushing on itself. That stabilizer is designed to keep that implement from going any further that way. And the other side is designed to do the same thing. If you've got your stabilizers, this one is pulling before this one pushes up, you're in good shape. But if this one doesn't catch before this one gets in a bind and pushes, you just bent that one, and vice versa. So we need to shoot another video just on stabilizers and how to hook them up correctly, okay? This tractor is going to come standard with a toolbox. It's got a little cup holder, that kind of thing. This is not really what this video is about. That's little sales features and stuff that people like and you do need. But what we want to do is we're going to take a little break. We're going to raise the loader up. I'm going to show you a little step there you need to make, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. We've got the loader up in the air, but there's a couple of things that you want to do to be safe when you do that. About everybody's loader now, LS does a good job. They've got a joystick lock. So I can push this down and slide that into the little groove. That's going to keep somebody from coming up and working this joystick and letting you load her down on top of you. But this is great. But if you had a hose blow, cylinder fail, whatever, while it's up in the air, it can still fall. So if you look right here, we've put a piece of angle iron there. I've got a piece of cardboard on there to keep from scarring the cylinder ram. And like I say, you don't necessarily have to let it down on that, probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but that will at least slow it down, if not stop it, if I'm underneath it and I don't want it to fall on my head. I'd hate to bend that loader with my head. All right. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to raise the hood. We're going to talk about where you're going to check things, where you're going to be servicing it, where would you jump it off if the battery was dead. So on this side over here, there is a handle. This handle is going to rock this way. I'm going to give it a twist. And you'll raise the hood, okay? You do have a metal screen here in front of your radiator that does need to be cleaned out. A lot of people don't understand, oh, I just cleaned the screen. Well, you got wing nuts here to pull that out, clean the screen in the field, yes. But once you get back to the house, you'll need to take compressed air. I recommend compressed air. A lot of people say, oh, you can use water, and you can, but you can't quit with the water until it's done. If you leave it just wet in there, you just pretty much, I tell people, you've made cement inside those fins on that radiator. So make sure if you use water, you're getting clean water all the way through it, all the way from the back to the front or front to the back, however you do it. Battery's easy to get to right here. Another thing, talking about the screen, when you're out and you're running a rotary cutter and you're in tall brush, it's already headed out, especially sage grass, that kind of thing, all of these grills, where it's getting air, in the middle of operation, you're going to stop and wipe this stuff off, because that old fuzzy stuff's going to get on there and it's going to stop air from coming in. This is going to catch your first step, this is going to catch your next, but your fine stuff still going in the radiator. So eventually you're going to have to get that blown out. And I say have to get it blown out. You will need to blow it out, or take it to your dealer and your dealer will blow it out. Now, your air filter is right here. I'm not sure if you can see that with the camera. Air filter is right here. You do have an overflow jug. This is something that is a little bit misleading because it shows high and low. To me, it should say hot and cold. If you fill this, and it's cold weather, if you fill this up to the high, and then you run the tractor, as that fluid and coolant expands, you're gonna come out the overflow jug. As long as you're between the low and the high is where you wanna go. Now what I do when I'm checking my personal tractor, when the tractor's not been running, I like to check it at the radiator cap. I just never have been a big fan of putting all my faith in a jug, okay? So you can check at the radiator cap right here. These tractors right here got a clear fuel filter. You can see water start to come up. When you see water start to come up, you simply unscrew this, dump it out. It may be time to change the filter. That paper media is only going to saturate so much water, but probably wouldn't have to the first few times that you see water in the bottom of that. That's why you dump it out. Now once you screw that back on, you'll simply turn the key on, and you might hear it if you listen. Got an electric fuel pump. It's going to prime this up for you. You don't have to worry about some sort of hand pump and that kind of thing. It is an electric fuel pump that's going to prime it back up for you. There again, engine oil dipstick, painted white. Engine oil dipstick is very easy to get to. Your engine oil filter is actually right here. And you can see I've got my big old hand all the way around that filter. Very easy to get to on the oil filter. Of course, you do have a drain on the engine oil pan. Now, shoot right up in here. Back here on the firewall, that's your fuses. Right here on top of the valve cover, where you add engine oil. Now, on this other side of the engine, there's not a whole lot of stuff to check, but I do like to show people this. You've got a piggyback hydraulic pump set up. What that is going to do for you, that piggyback hydraulic pump, you've got a small pump and a large pump. They've got different functions. Your loader, if it had auxiliaries, you run the backhoe, that kind of thing, your 3-point hitch, all that's working off the large pump. Your steering, that kind of thing, that is working off of the small pump. The little bit of fluid it takes to engage your PTO, small hydraulic pump. Piggyback pump setup. It's what you get on a big tractor. This is just a 25 horse. A A lot of this is our best seller because it is 25 horsepower. I'm not sure if you noticed or not, and I need to go point that out. This is a mechanical injection pump. This is not a common rail. It's not a computer controlled engine. People really like this. Not that I'm afraid of the electronic stuff. My guys in the shop really like it. As far as, not because we like to make money on it, but at the same time, the younger techs that are coming up, the next generation of techs, are more familiar with that, say, rather than the guys that worked for my grandfather 30 years ago, you know. So electronic stuff has got its definite pros and cons, but this tractor is purely mechanical. Now, you see your alternator there. Another thing while we're on this side, right here on the steering cylinder, you do have a grease fitting on this end and on the other end. You'll access it from the bottom, I believe. Yep. Both ends grease on the steering cylinder. Uh-oh, we got another thing that's painted white right here. All right, what's painted white right there? Underneath that is a dipstick. It does take a wrench. That is where you would check your front differential or your front axle grease. This is four-wheel drive. It's kind of like differential in your vehicle. A lot of people check that on a regular basis. Most people don't. What I always tell people, when you check that, you check it with it flat. If it's tilted like this or tilted like this, your fluid's going to be run to one side. Check it with the axle is parallel to the ground. Also, when you check that, or you should really check that if you start seeing oil leaks inside one of the front wheels. Another grease fitting we failed to mention a while ago. Underneath the front. This is your front trunnion. That is where the axle pivots. You grease all these grease fittings just like you grease the loader joints every 10 hours. I do have some questions right here. People ask all the time, what's those black knobs? Okay, when you pull these knobs, this plastic piece is going to come off. That's going to give you access to switches and that kind of thing. So more likely you're not going to be underneath here, but if you needed to, you got three of these knobs, one in the front and one on each side. All right, let's regroup and get what's in the operator's platform. Okay, this is the loader joystick. Your loader joystick is going to work your loader, raise and lower and curl and dump. A lot of people don't realize that it does have a float position. You see the loader wants to stop, the joystick wants to stop here. If you go right there, you're going to continue putting hydraulic pressure down. So you can actually pick the front of your tractor up very easily. But if you go beyond that, wants to stop, that's a ball detent. That ball is here and now you're rolled up in this groove. All right, that's going to hold that loader lever here. That's going to let just the weight of the loader arms ride down. So on your bucket, the only pressure down you've got is the weight of the loader itself. You can still make your bucket more aggressive or less aggressive going side to side by curling and dumping. That's for back dragging. In case you hit a manhole or something like that, that's going to let it ride over, okay? When you got your front end jacked up and all the weight on it and you had that bucket curled all the way back, you hit that manhole, you've just bent something on your loader, okay? Now, when you get ready to take your loader off, all of these are color matched. The big trick to taking a loader off is firm, flat, level ground. I always have my customers say it with me, firm, flat, level ground. Say it one more time, firm, flat, level ground. Just to get it in your mind. Because when you take your loader off, if your loader is sitting on this plane and your tractor is sitting on this plane, these pins and stuff are not going to want to line up. So it's much better being on flat, level ground. Okay, moving on back right here at the fender, you do have your 3-point hitch controls here. When you let this down, the hitch goes down. Pull it back up, goes back up. The only thing that controls the speed of how fast that comes up is how many RPMs you're running, because if you're at a lower RPM, your hydraulic pump is turning slower, giving you a slower flow or gallons per minute. The only thing that controls your drop speed is how fast you move the stick, and also we're going to come around in a moment and we're going to talk about the drop speed control. But this is a regular standard 3-point hitch. You do have a range of motion. You can stop it anywhere you want, and you do have a stop that you can put it to the same spot every time, okay? Now, the seats on these LS tractors on this model actually flips up. Keeps the seat out of the weather in case you have to leave it out overnight or whatever. You don't want your seat wet the next morning. Flip it up. Does help a lot. Now, these do come standard with seat belts. Got a little holder for this one. Of course, this is the receiver end. This roll cage is protecting the operator's area. If you're not in that operator's area, you're not in the safe zone. So, seat belt does help a lot. Okay. We're going to skip the transmission for just a moment. Let's look up here at the controls. This is your PTO switch. This is going to turn your PTO off and on. If you see, I'm pushing down, I twist to on, and I let it spring back up. If I just push down and turn on and don't kind of hold it there, it'll pop back to off. So you push down, twist to on, and while you're holding it, let it spring back up towards you. To turn it off, you simply push it down. PTO. Right here on the cluster, I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but this tractor has got a digital tach. So it's going to read whatever your RPM is set to, or with your foot throttle. 2510 is equal to 540 at the PTO. So 2510 engine RPMs, by the time that goes through everything and comes out to PTO, you're turning 540 RPMs, which is what your tiller, your disc, pretty much anything that was made for the American market on the PTO side for something tractor this size is run at 540. If you're not running 540, your slip clutch, your shear pin, that kind of thing, it's not designed to do the protection. So you want to run RPM. RPM is your friend. RPM is your friend. It's your friend. It's your friend. You're better off with more PTO speed, more engine speed than not enough. A lot of people buy a new tractor. Oh, I'm not going to run mine over 1,500 RPMs. Well, number one, you're lugging that engine. You're killing it. RPM's your friend. Without RPMs, there again, your hydraulics are much slower and everything else. So RPM is going to help you. RPM's a good thing. Now, when you first turn this tractor on, you make one click with a key. You're going to see the glow plug indicator. That glow plug indicator is going to go off just in a few seconds. It's still on a timer under the hood for another 10 to 12 seconds. So in extremely cold weather, you may want to count to 10 or 12 before you go ahead and twist it the rest of the way to crank it. All right? If it's really cold, of course, we're in Mississippi. A lot of you guys may be somewhere else. We don't sell all over the nation, but there may be a lot of people watching this video from all over the nation, even Canada. If it's extremely cold, there's nothing wrong with cycling that a couple of times. So generally don't have any trouble. Most everybody's diesel engine now is so much easier to crank than back in my grandfather's day when he was a dealer on farm equipment. Diesel engines crank a lot easier, but the colder the weather, the harder it is to start. So you definitely need to get that air warmed up to get it to crank easier. Now, over here is your regular light switch. You do have turn signals, okay? They do not self-cancel. You must put them back into neutral. First click, hazard lights, low beams, and high beams. When you go high beams, that's road lights. Your flashers are going to flash automatically with that. Now, make sure and turn your lights off. This is not Mama's new Mercedes-Benz. This doesn't have automatic canceling lights. You're gonna have to turn the switch off, you know, and about every tractor, even the premium tractors, if you got to leave the lights on, it's gonna run your battery down, so cut your lights off. Now, right here is a park brake lock, little orange handle. You push this down with your foot, it's got grooves in it, that holds it down. Another thing we need to talk about on the brakes is you do have separating brakes. I can work just the right, just the left. Back in the day when we were pulling turning plows and that kind of stuff, very few people are doing that anymore much. That plow is going to have a tendency to try to pull you one way or the other. So if it's pulling you to the right, you need to hit this left brake a little bit, and that's going to help you steer quite a bit. A lot of people use these for turning brakes. When you get to the end of the road, pick your implement up, hit that one brake, turn that way, it's going to spin around on one tire. Now, but very easily, you can lock it together or unlock it. Let's talk about transmission. Up here is shuttle shift. This is four-wheel drive. This is a synchronized shift. Okay, what does that mean when you're synchronized? Well, when you mash the clutch, you can still be moving and you can shift into forward or neutral or reverse. This is not designed to shift as you're beginning to clutch. Tractor, you mash the clutch first, then you shift. If you were in road gear, would you really want to slam it into reverse? No, this is for working speed only. So, if you're traveling pretty fast, mash the clutch and stop. If you're down here in low gear, you got high RPM, say you're running a rotary cutter, running a tiller, there's absolutely nothing wrong. Now granted, with a tiller or a bush hog, you probably want to pick it up, mash your clutch, slow down, pull it into reverse or forward. You're going to do a lot of that with doing loader work. Okay, so we've got this covered. This lever over here, this is actually the first lever you're going to decide you're going to be in. You've got low, medium, and high range, okay? I am pushing up a brush pile that's got dirt in it and it's really heavy, or I'm loading the front loader bucket. I'm really hogging something with a disc. I'm getting nasty with a box blade. I need that grunt. More likely you're going to be in low range, okay? The range shifter, you mash your clutch and stop. That is a non-synchronized shift. Not familiar with anybody's compact tractors that the range is synchronized. You mash your clutch and stop before you shift your range. So, you're in low. You're really loading that loader bucket heavy. So while you're stopped with the clutch mashed, it's hard to do this standing on this side. I'm used to sitting in the seat. So, with the clutch mashed and you're sitting still, you go into first. You release your clutch. Now you can go about your work. You're back and forth, still mashing the clutch. You don't necessarily have to come to a complete stop on the shuttle, but you're back and forth doing your load work. Wait, man, that really loaded that bucket well, but I've got to run 300 yards the other direction to dump where I'm going to put this, to make a pile of dirt where I'm going to put it. So you need to change here. These tractors are partially synchronized. So it means some of these speeds you can shift into while it's moving, but you still have to mash the clutch. So I tell people until they figure that out, when you shift this one, the speed transmission or the range, mash your clutch and stop. If you're hearing grinding when you're shifting, you're not doing something right. It should not grind. So you're in first, low, and now you need to go way over yonder. Well, mash the clutch and stop, pull out of first, come back down to fourth. Okay. Now, yeah, that's faster, but I'm still needing to go even faster. Mash the clutch and stop. Once you're stopped, come back to medium range. Now, you're in a higher range, so you may not want to stay in fourth. You may want to try second or first or third or whatever suits your job, depending on how hard the ground is, how rough the ground is, how far you're going, how unlevel. There's a lot of things, too many things to determine what speed you should be in. But mash the clutch and stop when you shift your range. Until you learn, till you recognize that grind, mash the clutch and stop on the speed as well. Shuttle, mash your clutch, and you're synchronized there. But you must mash the clutch all the way before you do the shuttle. Okay. One more thing right here. Four-wheel drive. See, can you see that better with it tipped forward? All right. You see a decal right here. Back is two-wheel drive. Forward is four-wheel drive. If that does not shift easily, don't panic. Don't get up and jump up and down, get a pipe and put on it and all this leverage and all this other kind of stuff. If that doesn't shift easily, mash the clutch and stop. Shift gears. Let it roll a little bit. Because what's happening when it doesn't go into gear, it's like this. Gears won't mesh like this. That's a non-synchronized shift. Roll forward just minutely. and it's going to go into gear, okay? Just hold a little bit of pressure with your hand as you move very slowly. Let's pause and come back around here and show you some things that you can't see from back there. Differential lock is right here behind your right heel. So say you got in a wet spot, one tire on the tractor on the rear is going to be pulling, okay? Well, you need both of them to pull to get you out. So stop, think about what you're doing. You're fixing to get twice the traction. I always tell people to take a deep breath, mash the clutch and stop. Hold this down with your foot. When you hold that down, there again, those gears are going into gear, locking that rear end in positive traction. When you let out on the clutch, now both tires are pulling in the direction that you want to go, whether that be forward or backwards. It's going to stay locked into gear. Now, this may not come up when you remove your foot because it's held in by pressure. You may have to change direction, separate your brakes and hit one brake or the other slightly, and that's going to let it spring back out. So like I say, you may have to change direction a couple times. You may have to hit one brake or the other, but that's just how to release the differential lock. Another thing, a while ago back on the hitch, we were talking about how fast the hitch goes down. Well, other than just moving this lever over here for the hitch very slowly, there's no way to control that except for right here. If you get a shot of that decal right there, you can see as you unscrew this, well, as you screw it in, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, as you screw it in, you're getting slower, and if you get it all the way in, you're at lock, okay? As you open it up, the faster that hitch is going to let it drop, okay? What that is a needle valve, okay? With you screwed all the way in, you're right here, and that is a needle valve on the return side. So as that hitch comes down and you're screwed all the way in, it's not letting any fluid come out. So as you unscrew that and you back it off toward the rabbit, the faster it's going to let it drop. So what you have to do is be careful, because everybody wants to look so pretty out there, and their girlfriend, their wife's watching them out there running that box blade, and it's just easing down on the ground. They're getting that driveway, and they're turning around, they're picking it up, and they're just easing it down. Well, honey goes in the house, grabs you a lemonade, okay? You drink your lemonade, you jumped off that tractor so fast, you drug your foot across the knob, and now you're in lock. You already had it set so slow because you looked so good doing it. You drug it to lock. So now you're here. Well, now you're up there, you done take your shirt off. Everybody, I shouldn't have said that. It could be a lady on there. She's probably not going to do that. But anyway, husband's up there watching mama out there on the driveway. Well, she's up there working that lever up and down, and that three-point hitch ain't moving. They're thinking they're really doing something, but the three-point hitch is up. So your better half is up on the porch laughing at you now. So make sure and be familiar with what this does right here, because if it is locked, your three-point hitch is not going down. Now, if you had a heavy box blade or something, or a heavy cut or whatever, and it's stuck up because you've got this locked, don't try to move this with this lever all the way down. Think about what you're doing. Crank the tractor up, raise the three-point hitch all the way up, relieving the pressure off of this. Then you could be a lot easier to turn this with your hand. If it still doesn't relieve enough pressure, this is hex shaped, so you can put a wrench right here to open it up. Okay, just remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I think that pretty much covers it for the 225E. I'm sure there's going to be some questions. If anything comes up, don't hesitate to call and ask us. We're in Booneville, Mississippi. Our phone number is 662-720-0022. Hopefully you're watching this because you've bought a tractor from us and you've got some questions. If I've left something off, let me know. We'll try to do another video for you and try to get that information out there where it's easy access. Thank you very much, and tune back in for the next one.